Conversations with Love with Eric Sean. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Love, where we interview real life people. They share their experience of how they've overcome adversities and how they use those experiences to spread love. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Love. Today, we are very blessed to be in the company of Stephanie Thompson. But before we get into Stephanie's story and we discover how amazingly wonderful and powerful she is, how resilient she is, the tenacity that she has, I want us to start off with a prayer to kind of get grounded. Is that okay with you, Stephanie? God, thank you for allowing us to wake up to another wonderful day where we can exhibit how amazing you are, that we can travel the world and show everybody that we come in contact with how you've instilled us with greatness. Thank you for giving me, for giving Stephanie all the experiences that we have dealt with in our life and that we have overcome, because now we can use those as unique experiences to help, to uplift, to empower, to motivate other people. Thank you for instilling us with love so strong that regardless of what we have endured, at the end of the day, we recognize that this world, this life, this carnation, this experience is all about love. Amen. Amen. So who is Stephanie? I'm going to read her bio and then we're going to go from there. Stephanie likes to say she has had a challenging childhood, losing her mother to suicide at almost 5. Stephanie took on the role of a mother and caregiver for her economically strapped household, struggling with an abusive father with mental health issues and a genius young brother. Stephanie was taught her role was only as a supporting character. Throughout her life, people and events, this was painfully reinforced. But thankfully, the fighter inside of Stephanie finally found the inner strength, courage, and faith to burst out of her own self-doubt, anger, and fear, becoming an advocate for goodness, love, and health. I've known Stephanie for a little while. I originally had the pleasure of training her and working with her in the gym. And I can tell you that she's an amazing woman. And she is truly one of the universe's love angels. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to kind of let Stephanie tell you a little bit about herself. Who is Stephanie?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. And for everybody watching, yes, this is a filter, so if I go in and out, forgive that. Our I ams are so ridiculously important. And most of us, when we say our I ams, we say something like, I am a mother, I am, I work here, I do this. Those aren't your I ams, those are your whats, right? And so I am powerful, I am a light, I am strong, I am not just a survivor, but a conqueror, right? But my I am is a mother of 3 adult daughters, a divorced woman, a worker, a person who's striving to become an entrepreneur, someone who wants to take all the challenges and all of the experiences that I've had and use them to uplift people, to help them go through the struggle that they're going through with more grace and tenacity, understanding that if we allow ourselves to not be survivors, but overcomers, for us to empower, not only ourselves, but others, then the experiences aren't awful things or challenges, and that's why I say challenging, because it challenged me. That thing where we talk about, there's always that montage in the movie. There's always when the hero has to get to the point where they have to discover who they are and they fall down and they scrape their knees and they get a bloody lip. But every moment, progressively, scene by scene, they get better and they come into their being. We as just regular everyday people don't allow ourselves our montage. And that's who and what I want to do is let people see that the stuff you're going through is just your montage. Let it happen because that hero is ready to come out.
And that's so very true. How did you come to the conclusion in regards to the whole montage, and where did that knowledge come from personally?
I don't want to say it's a knowledge. I used to be a children's minister, and I think I told you that because when I met you, that's what I was doing. And I used to talk to the kids about lots of things, but one of the things was the Holy Spirit. And I just, if everybody has a favorite, right? God or Jesus or the Holy Spirit, and mine is the Holy Spirit. And it's because He's inside of you, that gut that tells you immediately, instantaneously. You don't have to go out and seek counsel, right? It's inside of you. And once you learn how to listen to that, once I learned how to listen to that, it's not that things didn't hurt. It's not that, I didn't make some bad choices, but I learned very quickly that the bad choices or the choices that weren't in my benefit, my stomach hurt behind them. I was immediately and instantaneously advised as to the direction of that. There's a movie, I don't know if you remember it. It's an older movie. Oh, forget it. I can't even think. Can't see it. But it's a really great movie because after you die, when you go to heaven, you stand trial, right? You stand trial. And basically what you do is you have to, it's called Defending Your Life, Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep. I recommend everybody watch it. It's fun, but at the same time, I genuinely kind of feel that way, is that you get to heaven and you basically have to defend, what did you do with your life? Were you a coward when you were here on earth, right? Were you just kind of living every day, day by day, and trying to play it safe? Or did you make risks on behalf of yourself, on behalf of humanity? Did you help other people? Did you extend yourself, right? And so I have this serious belief that I would be ashamed to get to heaven and God say to me, hey, Stephanie, I put all those lessons right in front of you so that you could teach other people, right? Because I knew you could do it. Tell me what happened. Like, tell me some of your stories. And I would just look at him and go, man, I just tried to get up every day. That would break my heart. And I genuinely feel that. I feel like I've been given these life situations because I can handle them, right? They hurt, they stink sometimes, but I believe, I'm not going to say I believe that whole God doesn't give us more than we could bear, but I do believe that idea in itself is that you have to go through things to actually be able to address them, right? I'll give you a really kind of probably very embarrassing example. Do you know those cysts, those boils you get usually on the backside of you?
Mm-hmm.
So I had never had one, never heard of one. I got one, right? And it just looks like a pimple. It just looks like a pimple. You try to do that, but it is literally one of the most painful things you've ever experienced. And I went through childbirth literally 3 years in a row, okay? Couldn't understand where it came from or what happened. You know why I got it? It's because my daughter wound up getting it, and she was only like 6, but she wound up getting one about less than a year later. If I had never experienced that, we would have thought she was just being dramatic. We would have thought that she was just being silly. And I feel like from the bottom of my heart, I had to experience that to walk her through it. I had to experience it to be able to be her advocate when we talk to the doctor. I had to experience that because otherwise I would have no understanding of what she was feeling. And I genuinely believe that a lot of the things that we go through, if we use them as textbook, right? If we use them as lessons, as opposed to punishment, right? What kind of God do you serve that punishes you? My God doesn't punish me. My God teaches me. My God helps me. My God advocates for me. And sometimes you got to go through some hard stuff to learn that. My God isn't punishing me, right? And if I look at it as an experience, as a growth measure, as a preparation tool, then I can kind of deal with it better. And when I'm presented with someone that's facing that same challenge, I can go, that's why that happened. All right, I got it. I hear you. I don't just sympathize with you. I don't even empathize with you. I can walk this walk with you, right? And that's how I feel.
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes we make a lot of times is when we go through an experience, we make it just about us. And something we hold it inside and it festers and it creates dis-ease. And the reality of it is that I believe that anything that we go through is an opportunity for us to grow, but even deeper than that, it gives us experience to help somebody else. Am I my brother's keeper? It gives us the ability to understand each other and to help somebody else go through the same thing. And then it has purpose and it has meaning as opposed to a punishment. So I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and wouldn't you rather the things that you go through be useful as opposed to just being something that was stupid? I tell
Absolutely.
people, when you learn, I mean, think about it in school. You learned long division so that you understood the principles. You understood how the mechanics of it all, the mathematics, the science behind it, so that when you learn short division, right, it made sense. It was something that was like, oh, okay, so there's an easy way to do it. And I always had a problem with the people who were like, well, they could have just taught us this in the beginning. Yeah, but there's going to be a time, there's going to be a point in every situation where the short division isn't going to work and you have to know the long division, right? There's always a time in our life where if we don't teach our children the principles and just tell them the answer, then we don't understand why they can't make decisions on their own. And they're calling us every 3 days for something silly because we didn't teach them the mechanics of making a decision, right? And so that is how I feel about challenges. Thomas Edison said, I didn't make 1,000 mistakes. I made 1,000 attempts before I got to the success. I had to learn what didn't work before I could recognize what did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that was in your bio that I really liked how you expressed it, because I think that so many people are going through the exact same experience. You basically stated that you were a supporting actor as opposed to the main character. And you didn't say it that way, but that's what I heard you saying. Can you talk a little bit about that and what you mean by it?
Sure. And I think some of it is being a woman, some of it is being a Black woman, some of it is just kind of our religion, right? So I was raised by an authoritarian, parent. And without a woman in the household, not only was he he was a Marine, right? And he was a real Marine. We were raised under military command. So I was taught that I was a child of God, right? That I was Black, that I was a Harris, that I was a daughter, that I was a sister. I didn't even exist till like 6 or 7. Like I had no autonomy until 6 or 7 space, you know. And in every situation, when I got married, it was the same hierarchy. The kids came along, it was the same hierarchy. And it is exceptionally difficult to be able to self-care when you're caring for everyone else, right? So your care is the last thing because you're almost selfish and rude for actually trying to take that into consideration. Well, what about the kids? What about this? How come, what happened here? There were times as a child, my father would bring home a bushel of peaches from the West Side Market and everybody might be excited about that. But I was literally in the kitchen probably for 13, 14 hours making pie, right? Frying up chicken, doing things like that, because that was my role. So I didn't have a childhood, I didn't have anything. I didn't get out on my own, honestly, until after my divorce, which was like, I don't know what I was, maybe 43. So I didn't learn how to be an independent human until that point. And I still had my girls, they were still, teens. But what I learned is that I didn't do anybody a service by allowing myself to be pushed back. I didn't allow my girls to see what a woman should look like. And I'm not talking about that whole I don't need anybody woman. I don't agree with that. I'm not talking about that. I can do everything by myself. I don't agree with that either. But at the same time, if I don't value myself, if I don't demand not only from others, but from myself, respect and adequate treatment, then how can I project that to my daughters? How can I show my daughters how they should be treated, right? Without going on either side of the ramp. So when we are only supporting characters, that's why we take crappy jobs, right? That's why we allow ourselves to have the laugh, because that's what we feel we deserve. And it's because it's been kind of, I'll say, instilled in us. Some of it was beat into us, some of it was instilled to us, some of it was just the dynamic. Even if you look at the commercials, you look at everything out there, um, either you're this kind of woman or you're that kind of woman. Like there's no, you're allowed to be strong and still, a good woman. It's like why do you have to be on either side of the dynamic? Why can't you just be good and wholesome and at the same time strong and sassy? There's nothing wrong with either of those, and you kind of need all of it, right?
And I think that even in the dynamics, obviously, it's probably different for a man, but I think that most of us aren't taught, number one, that we're allowed to be the main character in our own movie. If your life is your own movie, why not be the main character? And just like you said, I mean, we're taught that we're supposed to be a certain way, but we're not taught that we can discover who we are, we can travel that path, and we can be us. We can live the life that we want to live.
I agree. And I promise you, it wasn't a silly movie. I don't think the movie was taken as seriously as it should have been. Defending Your Life is just a really good movie. It's fun. But like I said, it says, to the extent of, you're here for a real reason. It's not just to kind of play it safe. I always believed in myself, running my own business, doing this and doing that. And I was told, be quiet, sit down. You're talking too much. You're too loud. You're taking the attention away from other people. And I never believed it, but I played it, right? And that's another part of who and what some of our struggles are. And I believe a lot of times that's what our mental health struggles are. I'm not putting down mental health. I believe in it very seriously. But a lot of it is just this schism between what we believe ourselves to be and what we allow ourselves to be. Okay, so if we know we're this super duper wonderful, powerful thing, but we know we're not allowed to be, you kind of implode. And how can you not feel conflicted and strange and like a bad person, honestly, like a bad person? And I wish that a lot of it goes to being Black, a lot of it goes to women, all women. I think all minorities, we're supposed to be this thing in the background that just kind of pours into things, right? But we're in an infinite universe. We all have our gifts. We all have our unique perspectives. That's why they make 87,000 flavors of ice cream. There's a reason. If you just look at ice cream, there's 88,000. I'm gonna keep getting bigger every time I say it, right? But there are so many flavors of ice cream because some days you want lemon lavender, which is amazing. And some days you just want a standard vanilla. Some days you might want Rocky River. No, that's a city, Rocky Road. But you're allowed to have all those ice creams. So if you're allowed to have all those different kinds of ice creams, why can't I be all of the different aspects of me that I can be?
Yeah. And it's one of my favorite terms is domestication, because that's what happens. I mean, we become domesticated. We're taught how to behave, how to act. We're taught that you go to school, you get a degree, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you work until you're 65, and then, life is pretty much over. And most of us have jobs we don't like. We go to work and we have these jobs that take up all of our time. We're not living our passion. We don't necessarily enjoy the job, but it's what we're taught should be our path.
Well, think about it. If you were designing the game, wouldn't you want to make sure you had enough workers?
Oh, absolutely.
So it's the indoctrination. It's just like you said, it's the indoctrination. And they don't want us to, I don't remember if it was the blue pill or the red pill, but they don't want us to take the one that unplugs us. And I get it, but I'm not down for it. I get it, but it's not me. There are a lot of people who genuinely feel comfortable in that security which in this world there isn't any, but in the security of getting up, going to work, knowing that if I finish this, I'm gonna have this check at the end of the day,
Yep.
right? And so I have no problem with those people because they make the world work, right? Without the sanitation workers and the administrative assistants and all those things would just be willy-nilly. So I'm down for that, right? But if you're miserable, if you're miserable, there's somewhere else you fit. Even if a 9 to 5 is your vibe, that's what you want to do. Find one that makes you feel good. Find something that makes you feel useful as a part of the world, as not just a cog, but as something that is like, you know what, without me, this wouldn't do it like it do it, right? And I know that about the jobs that I'm at. Do I want to have to work a 9 to 5 every day? No. But am I satisfied where I'm at? I am for right now, because I found somewhere that resonates with me. I found somewhere that has the same belief system that I believe, right? They have the same principles that I have. What they're doing is useful and helpful. And I think if we're going to work a 9 to 5, if we're going to get married, if we're going to be a part of a system, we need to be a part of a system that is cohesive with what we are, right? You shouldn't come home and by the time you're done with your day, you're exhausted because it was mentally draining, right? You should be good. You should be happy. And you could work a regular job that somebody goes, I don't know why you like that, and you be thrilled, right? So we all have our place to play, our part to do. I don't put anybody down for what they do, but be happy at what you do. Feel good when you tell your kids what you do. And it doesn't have to be a $365,000 job. It could be something regular, but you feel good about it. You feel like you did something today. I helped those people get their phone cut back on. I helped somebody do this. I was a part of somebody's experience. And if you feel good about what you're doing, you're not a supporting character. You become, part of the plot. Not just like I said, as an aside, you become part of it wouldn't have moved forward without that thing that I did. There's nothing like somebody getting off the phone with you and saying, you know what, I feel so much better now. And if that's what you do it. If you don't feel that way, find something else. No better time in the world to look for a job than when you got a job.
Change of any kind, especially when it comes to change of mindset or changing something in your life, is always difficult. So my question for you is how did you go from being a supporting actor to being in a position where you're in charge of your life? How did you go from that supporting actor role to the main character?
I was tired of being sad. I was tired of feeling like crap, and I was tired of letting and thinking that my daughters would think that this was okay. To think that being less than what you know you are. There's a difference. There's a huge and significant difference in never knowing what you are, right? You have those people, I never knew I could do that. I always knew I could do it, right? I was told, don't. I'm not going to let you do it. I'm not going to give you that opportunity. I'm not going to get you this training. I was literally kind of blocked, right? And I mean it with the word that I'm not going to say. But I had not hurdles put in front of me, but doggone mountains, right? And so I'm strong and I climb the mountain. But then I go, well, I don't want to lead them back there. And so I go back and get people that didn't want to come up the mountain. That was my fault. But I'm going to be honest. God had to throw like 19 things in front of me because I kept saying, well, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. And I'm just being selfish and trying to, be me. And I went back and I tried to figure out who 5-year-old, 8-year-old, 9-year-old Stephanie was. And 9-year-old Stephanie read speeches, in the kitchen. 9-year-old Stephanie had TV shows. I was Julia Childs in my kitchen, right? And we had a little camera not a real camera because we was broke, but we had a little fake camera on the cabinet. And my brother was my assistant. He got mad. He didn't want to be my assistant. And I would do cooking shows, right? I would do speeches. Every time I could, I would get in front of an opportunity. And then, as I got older, I was said, I was like, well, you this and you that. And I didn't want to be that. So the only way not to be all those bad things that people were saying about me was just to kind of fade back into the distance, right? Because it wasn't what I was doing that offended them. It was just me that offended them, right? I'm just what I am. And I came to the conclusion that I am what I am, as Papa would say. And I am, right? I am a part of a living, moving, powerful God. And I have never been confused about that, right? I've never, ever, ever been confused about that. And I just shrunk back on purpose. It's kind of gotten cliche about that, let your light shine. So I'm hesitant to say it. But at the same time, I did dim my light. And I did it intentionally um, because it drew attention that was not favorable, and the perceptions. And I didn't understand how to deal with that. I didn't have a mother. I didn't have a female figure that said, don't worry about that, right? I grew up in an exceptionally dysfunctional home. And so I never learned how to just be good in me. Matter of fact, I was taught the opposite. And it wasn't until I again became a mother and I had to mother my children. But in the same time of mothering my children, I had to learn how to mother me. I had to be a mother to not just them, but to me. And I would say, well, if I tell them that, then why wouldn't you do that? Like if I say, be strong, don't let somebody walk all over you, then why am I letting people walk all over me? Right. If I'm instilling certain principles in them, then wouldn't it be counterproductive not to be that person, right? They children become who you are rather than what you say. And if I'm saying you need to be strong, you need to say what you feel, you need to be comfortable in you as a girl person, then why am I not? Right? If they see mommy doing this, then they're more likely to be that as opposed to what I'm telling them to be. And if it wasn't for my girls, I don't know where I would be. Only because, again, I had to mother 3 female creatures, right? And it was the hardest thing in the world because I never learned how to be a woman, right? I never learned femininity. I never learned those things. My friends always say, you're the closest thing to a dude that I know. And it's honest. I relate more to men. I understand, their thought process better. And so it's been challenging. But again, I just had to say, the world's either going to love you or hate you anyway. So why you worry? Why do you care the same way? And as you're trying to raise and water and instill these values in these rural children, these females, I don't like that word, but this essence of femininity, you need to be what you know. You need to be what you believe. So that honestly was the biggest thing. And then, affirmations over and over again, affirmations, because we are what we think we are. We are what we believe ourselves to be, not what we want to be, right? I want to be strong. I want to be rich. I want to be this. But in my head, if I'm saying, yeah, but, right? Yeah, but that's what we are. And people keep thinking affirmations are the answer. They're not if you don't believe them. They're not if you only say, well, I want to be rich and I'm going to this and I'm going to, but I got this job and I got to do this. So you have to sit there and go, you know what? I can do this. And I don't hate anybody that's got it. I don't want what anybody else has because what somebody else has isn't mine anyway. I'm going to always get what's mine, right? And so if you think to yourself, this belongs to me, this is for me, then you can't help but get it. It can't help but come to you because it is yours rather than, well, I sure hope I get what she got. No, that's hers. And matter of fact, you pouring energy into her for her to get it more, right? We never understand why the rich get richer is because we keep ideating on their richness rather than putting that energy into our richness, in our wealth and our energy and our power.
Speaking of which, on that note, what endeavors, what is Stephanie working on nowadays to make hers? As an entrepreneur, what is Stephanie up to?
Stephanie. So there's several things. Right now, the thing that I'm really, really putting my energy into is an herbal tea business. And I love it. The stuff is wonderful. It's really healthy and nutritious and beautiful, and it smells good, and it's restorative for a lot of different reasons. I've got another adjunct product that's working with that. But actually, the reason I started the herbal tea business was because I was trying to I am working on funding getting my book published. And it is kind of like memoirs. It's not a book. It's a series of writing, some poems, some short essays and things like that about my upbringing and what it was like being a childless, well, not childless, a mother without a mother, growing up without a mother. My mother committed suicide. So that was just a very heartbreaking kind of thing. And I just want people to understand more about suicide and what you leave behind, right? So obviously someone's hurting and someone's in a lot of agony to even consider that, let alone go through with it. And I genuinely believe most people believe that it's the right answer. I don't think people would do that if they understood the agony of the people left behind. And so part of it is that. And part of it was just these are struggles that people go through. And it's not to necessarily gain sympathy, it's to understand that when you look at somebody and they look like everything's fine and they look healthy and great and happy, that there's all kinds of pain and anguish and heartbreak up underneath them. And again, to use those to say, you went through what? And I'm like, yeah, and some days I still go through it. Some days, Mother's Day is the hardest day of my life. My brother's birthday falls on Mother's Day a lot, and he was murdered. And then my mother, of course, Mother's Day is a horrible, horrible, horrible day for me. And we don't take these things into consideration. How come she acting like that? Well, there's a lot of reasons people act like they act, and we need to be a little more compassionate when somebody's acting out, because there's probably reasons. There's probably some significant pain behind those people. And then I'm also working on a workbook, which you actually probably would be a really good person to work with in conjunction with. But I'm working on a workbook that talks about not goal setting. I think when we try to do goal setting and we jump into it without understanding who and what we are, it's like going to the grocery store and just kind of standing around and just, Eric, you ever ate something and you go home and you eat it and you still want what you wanted? Like it wasn't what you wanted, but you figured if you ate, you'd be fine. And now you still really want what you want. I think that's what happens when we set goals, right? We don't really dig deep and figure out what our real goals are. The world tells us we're supposed to have a house and a car and a wife and a husband, whatever the right thing is for you. But we're supposed to have these certain things, right? And we're supposed to make this much money. But that's what the world thinks. And we are mistakenly setting goals based on what the world feels like we should be doing rather than what our stomach tells us, what our heart, what our 4-year-old self wants to do and be. Mm-hmm. And so that book helps us kind of dig real deep on this high level, just throwing stuff up in the air, trying to figure it out. So then now you got all this stuff laid out and go, yeah, that's for real what I want to do. And then you can goal set. See, you're good at that part, but I'm good at helping people figure out their actual answers. What's your real answer? Well, I really want to get married. Why? Right? Why do you want to get married? Well, such and such. Okay, well, you don't need a wife for that. So I don't think we understand ourselves. And that's what that book is the workbook, right? It's got puzzles and stuff like that. So I'm really excited. My goal is to have that out by my birthday next year, which gives me a whole nother year. But yeah, just a lot of little things. But they all center around health, right? They all center around wellness. They all center around being good to ourselves, because I think all of those aspects make us who we are. And if we don't pay attention to our whole selves, you and I talked about this a long time ago. You could work out, but if you don't eat right? You could work out, but if you're not sleeping, You could work out, but if you're not taking care of yourself mentally, you're not going to get the same gains,
Yep.
right? And that's what I feel about when it comes to nurturing your entire self. Your health is all of it. Your spiritual health, your mental health, your physical health, your relationship health. And we when we set goals, we only look at one thing. We only look at that one piece of it. You know, it's usually money, and you need money. Money is a good thing. But once you figure out what your gifts are, who you really are, money's just gonna come. Really, money is that thing that comes once you know once you're living in your purpose, you can't help but get money.
Right.
You can't help but get money. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. You know, somebody once said that the more we chase money, the more money runs. The more we chase passion, money will always follow.
Robert Ike said something I thought was really funny. He says money is a beautiful woman. He says, and if you look at other, if you don't pay attention to her the right way, she's gonna misuse you. But if you chase after her, she gonna run away too. So you kind of got to play this little game with it. But I genuinely believe that, and it's coming to fruition for me. The more that I know that if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, it will become fruitful. When I was doing the children's ministry, I wasn't looking for money. I wrote grants, right? But I did what I thought was important, and checks just started coming. Well, this is important, and we can see it's important, and we can see what you're doing. There's another check. I can see the passion in you. I can see what those kids are doing. Another check would come, right? Another grant would come. Money would just come. So when you do, I hate to say it, when you do what you're supposed to, when you're in the space that you need to be in, you get rewarded from it, right? And yes, a lot of it is emotional. A lot of it is feeling good. A lot of it is sowing into other people. But the more you sow into other people, I believe the universe, God, other people sow back into you.
Absolutely.
And that's what I'm learning. And that's why I believe that until I stopped being this victim and allowed myself to be a conduit, that things have just changed. Am I living the life I want to live? No. But I also learned, Eric, that I got everything I wanted, right? I got this cute little raggedy car out there, right? She's so cute. She just run good. But you know what? I asked for that cute little raggedy car. And I said, well, you know what? As long as she drives and gets me back and forth to work, and is a good sturdy car, I'll be fine. Right. So what did I get? A good sturdy car that got me back and forth to work. We don't seek. We don't go out and do and be our fullest. When we're in relationships, well, as long as, and that's what the kind of relationship you get. As long as he don't, as long as she just is, as long as she get cooked dinner for me, I'm fine. That's all you get, because that's all we've asked for. That's all we've demanded. God wants us to have everything. He wants us to have, to live in his glory, to show his glory. But we put limitations on what he can give us because we kind of block our blessings.
Yeah, and I think that, the more we take time to discover who we are, then we present ourselves better to the world. We're more in sync. We're able to stay in our lane, and blessings come. What I want to do is ask you, what message would you want to leave the audience with? If you had to sum up everything into a nutshell, what would that be?
Your experiences are your montage. Understand that the pain, the hurt, struggles that you went through were preparation for something. And I kind of look at it that the harder it is, that means the bigger whatever good is coming, right? And so I've learned that no matter how hard something feels, that means that something great is literally right around the corner. And if I focus on that, then the lesson becomes just that, a lesson. Secondly, is that we are no good to anyone until we walk in our power. And our power doesn't make it authoritarian. Our power doesn't make it oppressive. Our power doesn't mean that we are jerks. Our power is our strengths, understanding that we have a place and a purpose. And when we do that, we are helpful, we are useful, we are something that is motivating and helpful. And I think thirdly, knowing that love is more than just a feeling, it is a understanding of that purpose, right? And that self-love it's more than just a bubble bath. It's making sure that when you listen to the music, that you're putting the right kinds of information into your body, into your subconscious, into your thoughts, that the food that you eat is good and healthy food, right? I like to live on that 80-20 rule. We're not going to be perfect all the time. We can't be. But, as long as 80% of the time you're doing the best things that you can, that 20% is allowable.
Right.
And just trying to understand that nothing is here without a purpose and reason. And every single thing fits into that paradigm. And that we are part of that.
Not a single one of us is here by mistake. We are here because we have a purpose. We have a job to do. And, I really liked when you talked about the movie, because I agree. It all boils down to God has given us a unique skill set. God has allowed us to go through everything that we've gone through so that we can discover who we are. And it's like on the job training. He has given us thousands of gifts. Our job is, by the time we make it back to him, that we've exhausted it all. We leave empty. We come full, but when we leave, we want to leave empty.
And I guess that's perfectly said. And I just want people to understand that in the world that we live in, that almost sounds like a lack, right? That poverty mindset. And it's not. It actually is, the better that you feel, the less things that you need holding you down, right? And so if I look around, I can't tell you how many times somebody said, "Oh, I really like that," and I'm like, "Here," and I'll give them the earrings, right? Because I know that I like them, but I don't like them like that, and I got a bunch of other ones. And when we give, it's not taking from us, and we just have that poverty mindset, right? That when we give away, when we give of ourselves, when we give, that we're never going to see it back. And I fully and wholly believe that anything you give out into the universe, you get back tenfold, whether it be anger, whether it be pain, or love, compassion, and generosity. So what are you giving, right? Because that will show you what you're getting.
Right.
If you're getting all of this hurt and all of these people are treating you in such a way, kind of step back. I'm not blaming you, but kind of step back and look at what are you giving the world, right? What's your belief system look like? And then kind of examine that. So yeah, I agree with you. We should leave empty, but empty only in the set that in the fashion that we gave of ourselves, knowing that was a good thing, right? As opposed to, I don't have nothing left. I'm all tapped out. You done took everything from me. No, man, that's a good thing.
I want to say that it was an absolute pleasure having you. I know that your wellness business that you're putting together can only thrive because I know that you have such passion behind it. The one thing that I know is that when you believe something, you believe something. When you put your mind to something, it happens. I know that the future will look brighter than the past, simply because you have a better understanding of, as you put it, who that 9-year-old Stephanie is, who that 20-year-old Stephanie is, who that 30-year-old Stephanie is, and who that 40-year-old Stephanie is. And therefore, you can't help but succeed. And I can't wait to watch it. Thanks for taking time. I always say this, that time is the greatest commodity that we have. This moment that we shared with each other will never exist again. So I feel honored for you to take that time to share with me and my audience.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure, and it's been an honor as well.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Conversations with Love with Eric Shawn.